Welcome back. It is Sunday sit-down time. With us now is the St. Louis Post-Dispatch's sports columnist Ben Frederickson, also a graduate of the Mizzou J School, just like me, but he's a few years older than me. Back in 2012. What do you remember about those J School days back in the day?
Oh man, total blast. I remember people being at games that I covered. I'm so old, I can remember people being in the stadiums for games. No, I had a blast, man. I was fortunate enough to have some great mentors and folks who didn't tell me to get lost.
It seems like there's no games going on in St. Louis. Are any teams playing right now?
Well, the Blues are about to start. That's this week. So here we go. Now let's see how long they can go before some sort of a COVID shutdown. You knock on wood. You hope these guys dodge it. But the reality is there's probably going to be some turbulence at some point now as these teams start to try to figure out what regular seasons look like outside of a bubble. Fingers crossed that the Blues will go smoothly because you're right, Andrew. There's really not all that much else to cover right now. I was fired up about this college basketball season. Illinois, SLU, Mizzou all ranked for the first time together in the same poll since 1994. And I'm thinking, March Madness is going to be our savior here in this crazy sports year. Well, now two of the three, the Billikens and the Tigers, are shut down. The Billikens are going to go more than a month without playing a game, at least a month. We'll see about the Tigers. I'm hopeful they'll be back sooner than that, but we don't really know. I don't even think they know until the latest tests come back. So if Illinois gets shut down in the next couple of days, I don't know what we'll be doing, but it's a bummer because all these teams are playing pretty well.
Well, we'll get back to the Blues in just a bit, but we'll start with Mizzou Hoops. What do you make of this team? It's a team that's looked, like one of the best in the country, and then it's a team that's looked like the normal Mizzou. Well, which one is it?
Well, it depends on which team shows up, and I would say each game, but it's really each half, as we learned at Mississippi State. Talking to Konzo before this season, he really felt like people were underestimating his team, and we've seen why, right? We've seen why he felt that way. Because when these guys play together and they play their style, they can play with anybody. I mean, they beat a very good Illinois team. They beat Oregon. Their non-conference schedule was a lot tougher than I think they got credit for, and we'll see that reflected, I think, come March when it's tournament time, how the selection committee views that and how it factors into the net and all that stuff. But we've also seen them when they get away from their style and what makes them good, they can be as bad as anybody. When they take bad shots, when they let their biggest strength, which is their defense, get away from them. Then they can lose to anybody. So I was impressed with how they bounced back after the Tennessee loss. I wasn't surprised at all they lost to Tennessee. I was impressed how they bounced back. And then if they don't kind of use the Mississippi State game as a wake-up call, then they're going to be, they're not going to be as bad as people projected them as 10th in the SEC, but they won't be a top 25 team. I think they are. I think they're a tournament team. I think they should play in March, and how far they get in March will come down to how well they're playing at that time.
Moving on to football, we saw with this week that Ryan Walters is moving on to defensive coordinator duties with Illinois. Shock to you? Expected? What'd you think of the move?
I was surprised by it. And I had such a hard time getting a read on this Missouri defense this year. There were times when Ryan Walters staying on this staff for Eli Drinkwitz looked like one of the best things that's happened to this team. I mean, go back to the goal line stand against LSU. The way the defense played in that win against Kentucky, which people forget, Missouri had not beaten Kentucky in football for like half a decade. Everybody forgot about that, but that was a big win at the time. But then the defense eroded, as the season progressed, and it was hard to kind of figure out how much of it was scheme, how much of it was injuries, how much of it was guys being out for COVID. Walters himself missed a game because of COVID protocols, so I had a hard time saying this is on Ryan Walters, but clearly you could tell in the way that Drinkwitz was answering some questions about the defense as the season went along that he wasn't thrilled. I think it's a step back for Ryan. Clearly, he was interviewing for the Colorado head coaching job, his alma mater, less than a year ago. He got a big raise to stay at Mizzou, and now he's the same role at a team that, I think Brett Bielema was a good hire for Illinois, but clearly they haven't had the kind of success Missouri has had. So this is a step back career-wise for him, which makes me wonder if he was told, hey, start looking, or hey, you might want to see what else is out there.
Well, now Mizzou's in search of a new defensive coordinator. How important do you think that is for Coach Drinkwitz, such an offensive-minded guy, to find the right fit for this program?
Well, I think he's got some compelling options on his current staff. He could promote from within here, or he could turn to that Rolodex that he has on his desk. I mean, one thing about Drinkwitz is he knows he's a modern coach. He's worked with a lot of coaches. He is not probably going to be the kind of coach who has the same staff year after year like Missouri fans got used to with Gary Pinkel. I mean, what Coach Pinkel did at Mizzou was an oddity these days. And now guys leave left and right, and good coaches just expect that. And they also tap their connections to go get good answers. So he's got money to spend on that position. Remember, he's not paying a quarterback's coach. He's not paying an offensive coordinator. He's all of those things that Drinkwitz is. I don't think he wants to add defensive coordinator to his resume there, but he can go have the resources to find somebody. And he's got ties to Auburn, and you can go back to Appy State and look at who's the up and coming defensive coordinator. Ties to NC State. He's not going to have a hard time finding somebody.
Well, now let's switch gears over to hockey. With the Blues starting up their season on Wednesday, the bubble did not work well it worked well in health-wise, but not on the ice for the Blues. What makes you think that this will be different this year, headed into what seems to be kind of a crazy season?
Yeah, well, the first thing is exactly what you said. They never bought in to bubble hockey. And I think they spent a lot of this offseason kicking themselves for being so lethargic and kind of apathetic when they got there. If you would have said that to them when they were there, they would have really bristled and pushed back against that, labeling it that way. But now that they're removed from it, they're saying those exact same things. I mean, they're telling us, yeah, we wasted an opportunity. I mean, they were leading the Western Conference when they went to the bubble, and they looked like they had no interest in being there. And Braden Shin said a couple of days ago here on a Zoom, after a training camp session, he said, you only get so many opportunities to win a cup, and we felt like we wasted one. And I think that's true, and it's also good that it's a motivating factor for these guys. They're not the same team in a lot of ways. They've got a new captain in Ryan O'Reilly. Alex Petrangelo's gone. They've added Torrey Krug, who I think will add some energy and some spice and help their power play out quite a bit. And then they go out late and get Mike Hoffman, who will help overcome some of the scoring deficit that Vladimir Tarasenko's shoulder injury makes up. So they think they've got a very good team. They're in this weird West division. I think they're calling it the Honda division, but unless they're going to give me like a new Accord, then I'm not going to call it that. But they are up against the Kings, which is interesting or the Knights, which is interesting because they've got obviously Petrangelo. The Avalanche are really good. They've kind of had the Blues number, so there should be some compelling games there. But I think they have to be one of the top teams in that division. And based off of their moves here, they should be able to be a contending team. So combine that with the fact that they're fully motivated, I think they got a chance to be right back in the mix here.
Well, if it was up to me, I would get you that new Honda Accord, but unfortunately, not gonna work. But you've been doing a great job over at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and appreciate you coming on for the very first time on Sports Zone. We'll hopefully have you on back soon.
Yeah, anytime, Andrew. Thanks for inviting me, and I really appreciate it. Hope to see you in person here before too long.
I hope so too. All right, we'll be right back after this.